So what do the running back rankings look like now after the NFL draft? We'll talk about it on FFT in 5. Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg here. Jamie, let's start with Jonathon Brooks, the rookie, and where you're ranking him and your excitement level for Jonathon Brooks going to Carolina.
I have him running back 22 right now. I think there's a lot of upside, clearly. The biggest hurdle will have to be his health, because if he is healthy, ready to go week 1, you're looking at his competition. We know Miles Sanders flopped last year in Carolina, and I think he should be given the benefit of the doubt with all the upgrades that the team made. Offensive line's better, coaching should be better. So, we'll see if he still has any sort of foothold in this backfield. And Chuba Hubbard was very good for them last year, as we know, when Sanders struggled, but I think there's a little bit of a talent gap if Brooks is right and even if Sanders is right. So we'll see how all three of these guys sort of coexist with each other, but I'm excited about the upside of Brooks, and we'll see just what happens when we get to training camp, where he's at in terms of his health. But if he's ready to go on the field week 1, I'll take a flyer on him as a low-end number 2 running back, with the hope that by the second half of the season, he's looking like maybe Breece Hall did last year. I think that's a lot to ask, but clearly that type of potential, if things go right for him, that he could be a significant contributor.
So if we look at other teams that added running backs, the Cardinals drafted Trey Benson, the Rams drafted Blake Corum, and the Packers drafted Marshawn Lloyd, all in the 3rd round. In the 4th round, the Dolphins drafted Jalen Wright, the Bucs drafted Bucky Irving, the Eagles drafted Will Shipley. That guy never gets talked about, right now, right? And Ray Davis went to the Bills, Isaac Guerendo to the Niners, Braylon Allen to the Jets. That was the 4th round. So did any of the veteran incumbent running backs take a big hit in the rankings for you?
2 guys took a hit. I guess you could say Josh Jacobs took a little bit of a hit just because there's 3 mouths to feed now in Green Bay. I think they will use A.J. Dillon probably more than we like. But Marshawn Lloyd was one of my favorite backs. He was in my top 5 of the rookie running back class. So I didn't like the landing spot for him for his individual upside. But I think long-term he could be good. But in any event, Jacobs dropped a couple of spots. Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert both dropped in Miami because of the addition of Jalen Wright. And Trey Benson's addition to the Cardinals dropped James Conner a couple of spots as well. I'm not really panicked on Conner, just because I think the Cardinals were going to upgrade anyway with their backfield. And, Benson, being as talented as he is, was not the most ideal situation for Conner. But he's just been so good. When Kyler Murray has been healthy in this offense, different regimes, he's been successful as a pass catcher, as a goal line option. So if he can stay healthy, that's always the key with him. I think he'll still be okay, but you have to downgrade him a little bit just based on Benson's arrival. So all of these guys kind of lose a little bit, but, we talked about this on the full-length episode with Alfredo Brown. There's just, you don't want to panic. I think that's the biggest thing, is sometimes we tend to panic too much. There was panic over Ken Walker last year with the addition of Charbonnet. I'm sure there's a couple of other, scenarios we could look at and say, oh my gosh, this rookie went there and it's just time to downgrade them completely. But just keep in mind that there's a reason why these guys were round 3, round 4, and round 5 selections. They just have a little bit of a lack of talent, coming into the league by comparison to some of these guys that they may be replacing. So don't necessarily hit the panic button too much, and hopefully these guys will still be successful.
Yeah, but on the other hand, right, I mean, you talk about Will Shipley going to the Eagles and Isaac Guerendo going to the Niners. We're not going to be talking about them because we have basically there's like no chance that McCaffrey or Barkley is going to get benched for these guys, it would seem. Same with Braylon Allen going to the Jets. But, look, Connor's, 29? Kyron Williams he was a 5th-round pick, I think, had a pretty surprising year. Josh Jacobs coming off a terrible season, at least in terms of yards per carry with the Raiders. You got Mostert.
He got paid by a new team, though. So
I agree. Mostert and Achane are injury-prone, perhaps. Rashad White's, for his career, I think he's averaging about 3.7 yards per carry. I guess I could see scenarios where these guys struggle and these rookies actually do become more relevant.
They certainly could, and it's, I think in the case of, let's say, Lloyd, for example, if you were inclined to handcuff Josh Jacobs, you'd be taking Lloyd at this point over A.J. Dillon. If you're looking at the 49ers situation, you want to talk about injuries, Elijah Mitchell's had a really hard time staying healthy. So if you're trying to handcuff Christian McCaffrey, this might be the guy to go get. And I always butcher his name, Guerendo,
I believe.
Guerendo. He might be the one that we end up talking about throughout the course of the season as that lottery ticket type of player. In the case of the Dolphins, for example, when you identify skill set and you see it mirrors some of the guys on the team, like, that's a little scary to me. There's what's the situation where Achane misses a game or two and Jalen Wright comes in as that second guy and has a Denver type of game, where he just goes off for 150 rushing yards and a couple scores. And then now we're really in a hellish spot of 3 guys sharing touches. So there's a lot of ways you can nitpick this, but I think the one thing would be is don't necessarily panic right away. Don't go selling your dynasty shares of some of these running backs because of, additions. Don't necessarily be looking to trade some of these guys, in those spots as well. And if you're still drafting or you're starting to do your drafts, I wouldn't necessarily overvalue some of these rookies and rookie only drafts. There's still going to be some, difficult paths for them to get on the field and have success.
Thanks to Jamie Eisenberg and all of you for watching and listening. I'm Adam Azer. Talk to you later this week on FFT in 5.